come to the next presentation, which comes from WWF Germany. And it is about exactly the project which was mentioned just before. And if we manage to re-survive or wake up the mic, it should work. Hannah, no chance? Okay, so maybe
we'll use this one.
Thanks.
Okay, hello, and thanks for the invitation to talk about wildlife crime today. I'm not going to talk about birds, I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about mammals mostly, because our projects are mainly around mammals. We do work on birds too. WWF owns some land in Brandenburg where we, for example, secure feeding grounds for the lesser spotted eagle, Schreiadler. We also are partners in the live northern bald ibis project, which some of you might know in southern Germany. But yeah, again, today I'm going to talk about wildlife crime in Germany. A lot of the cases are not detected, hence the title of my presentation. So let's see how... Is that the wrong one? Yeah. Okay, so we mainly work on large mammals. We help the return or facilitate the return of species that were home to Germany but then were extinct and are now coming back. So mainly wolves, lynx, also moose and European bison are the focus of our project. And one thing that connects all of the projects, that wildlife management is really people management, and that we try to work a lot with the people that are affected by the return of these species. Obviously, there are a lot of conflicts around these species too. You all know about conflicts that wolves cause. And in fact, wildlife crime, poaching of these species is more or less the escalation of such human-wildlife conflicts. And so that's why we try to work on the prevention of such conflicts, but also on a better enforcement, prosecution of wildlife crime. What are the mammals affected by wildlife crime, by poaching in Germany? So it's mainly these four. It's wolf, beavers, lynx, otter. For example, last year in spring there was a case in Bavaria where 7 beavers were killed. Later that year, one person was arrested and sentenced to a fine for using illegal snares also to kill beavers. I'll talk in a bit more detail on wolves and lynx, because there we have numbers, but the general picture is that it's very hard to even know how many of these animals are killed per year. And that has to do with how these cases are documented. So there is an official police crime statistic, and basically there are a number of laws or acts that species are protected under, or where poaching is a legal action. And so on the left map you see all cases between 2009 and 2019 that were documented as a violation against the criminal code, where also like hunting violations are documented. So basically these 10,000 cases all have to do with poaching. But poaching is quite broad. This would also include if somebody illegally hunts a roe deer in somebody else's hunting district, for example. That is also considered poaching. And then the map on the right gives you all the cases in those 10 years that were violations against the Federal Conservation Act, against the Federal Animal Welfare Act, or also against the Federal Hunting Act. And there you see that, 72,000 violations were documented. But again, these consist of quite a lot of cases. So Animal Welfare Act, this can also be, violations against illegal keeping of animals, or this would also include if somebody illegally disposes garbage, for example. So that means poaching, wildlife crime, is somewhere hidden in these figures, and that's why we don't have really good numbers. We actually ran a study or a survey amongst criminal investigation offices and public prosecutors' offices to understand better why there is no good documentation. And often it was said, well, poaching of animals, it's not a serious crime. And there's no need to document it better. But in fact, and that was one of the questions here, it is a serious crime. And the Federal Conservation Act foresees 5 years imprisonment or up to 60,000 euros of a fine when you harm or kill a protected species. So let's look a bit in more detail on cases we know. For example, on wolves, there are the latest numbers. They are from last year. There are about 160 wolf packs in Germany and 40 pairs. The numbers have increased significantly over the past years. Wolves have been making a comeback to Germany for over 20 years now. And Oliver's Institute, they also are responsible for the necropsies of wolves. So all wolves that are found dead in Germany are analyzed at the EZW. And there are recorded cases of 83 illegal killings of wolves since 1990. And when you look at how many wolves have actually been found dead and then analyzed, that were 950 since 2000. And the main cause for death in wolves in Germany is traffic. So the light blue, that's traffic. And then you see again, 82 are killed illegally. And there are also numbers that of the 946, around 25 wolves shooting was not the immediate cause of death, but they have been shot at during their lifetime. So with shotgun shells were found in their bodies. So there's a really thorough investigation of these cases. That's why we have a good knowledge on the wolves, but obviously, hence again the title of my presentation, Shoot, Shovel and Shut Up, we assume that most of the cases are not detected. Situation for lynx. Lynx have been actively brought back to Germany since the 90s, early 80s even. There were some reintroductions in Bavarian forest. And lynx are not as fast in their population growth as wolves. So there we are actually very concerned about the poaching, I have to say, because the population grows very slowly, and a hotspot of the poaching is Bavaria. There are a number of cases in the past years where poaching has been detected, but also we know from camera traps that lynx just disappear because they are. You can mark lynx, or you can identify them by their fur pattern, and so you know when you see a lynx and all of a sudden it disappears. There are different reasons, but it is likely that these are killed. So when we talk about poaching in Germany, again, this is the escalation of human-wildlife conflicts. And there's quite a nice model to describe this in a little bit more detail, because often the poaching of wolf and lynx we see, often it's not really about just the animal, but there are really underlying or deep-rooted conflicts. So there might be a dispute, for example, losses of livestock by farmers that are obviously not very, very well seen. But there's really underlying conflict. So, for example, if sheep are killed repeatedly by wolf, this really creates a tension among the farmers. And then there's also deep-rooted conflict, so where the wolf or the lynx is really a symbol or a scapegoat for underlying deep-rooted conflict. So, for example, it's about control in rural areas. It's about maybe conflicts between nature conservation and land use, between hunters and conservationists. This example, national parks, protected areas, this causes a lot of conflict and dispute, and often these animals are then sort of to make a statement from some people, I don't want conservation, I don't want protected species here. Some cases on the question of law enforcement, so how are these cases prosecuted and enforced? There's a handful of cases I know of where wolf poaching was prosecuted. One was in 2007. There was a hunt and 3 hunters shot the wolf during a hunt. Only one of the hunters was sentenced to a minor fine. There was a case in Saxony-Anhalt, a bit long ago already. Wolf was also shot during a hunt, but no procedure was opened. The suspect said, he was mistaken the wolf for a dog, and that's why the prosecutor said, okay, we won't open a procedure. Then one case in Rhineland-Palatinate, the first wolf after 150 years in the state was also shot by a hunter. The case was also closed, at least with some conditions. He had to surrender his hunting license and pay a fine, but there again he said he was mistaking the wolf for a dog and more or less got away. Like I said, for lynx, I'm really concerned as poaching is probably a major sink for the population. And there has also been done a study by IZW and the National Park Bavarian Forest to better understand, well, actually to bring some light into the dark numbers, because again, we don't know how many cases are actually, how many animals are killed. And there was some modeling to see, okay, what's the habitat like for the lynx in the Bavarian forest? So there was a habitat model, and then there were different layers, a collision model, demographic model, a dispersal model. And so basically these were all factors that could explain why lynx disappear. And then more or less the remainder of the lynx that disappeared was explained with poaching. And so the poaching probability for lynx in Bavaria and the Bavarian forest is between 15 and 20%. So that means almost a quarter of the lynx, according to that model, are likely to be poached, likely to be killed each year in Bavaria. Maybe I'll go over that a bit quicker, because there was actually a precedent, we hoped, in Bavarian forest, so where one poacher was caught. We as WWF, we offered a reward, quite a high reward. There was a subject to a lot of discussion. We offered 25,000 euros for somebody who would give advice, deliver evidence on the case. And there was actually a person then that got sentenced in first instance. He was accused of violating Federal Conservation Act, Animal Welfare Act, also illegal possession of weapons. There was a trap that was seized, as well as lynx ears, lynx claws, and illegal weapons during a house search at that person. And he was sentenced to a 3,000 euro fine by the district court. But then, in the appeal procedures, the case was dismissed because the judge said, due to lack of evidence, the proceedings were dismissed, and so basically, he got away. So these are just some examples from prosecution, from law enforcement in Germany. I'm sure we'll hear some more in the next presentation on birds. So the question is, why do offenders stay in the dark? Why are there no cases that are, successfully enforced? So we actually presume that some people in the areas where wildlife crime happens actually have information regarding the acts of wildlife crime. They know of these actions. However, there's very little willingness among these people to report the cases, and this is one perception that wildlife crime is not a serious crime. That's still quite regarded by many. Obviously, it's not a serious crime, it's just an animal. Filing a complaint might seem pointless to people. Why call the police and report it? Nothing will happen anyway. Also in rural areas, especially fear of consequences in the community. So threats, violence, social restraints even. And so that's, I guess, the reason why there's hardly any criminal complaints, no information from the public, and that indicates that there's a significant number of unreported cases or a very low detection rate of wildlife crime. And the cases that are known, why are they rarely solved and offenders not convicted? Well, first it needs obviously evidence and reports from the public or from any witnesses. If there are no reports, it's obviously difficult to solve the crimes. And then even if you have some clues, some evidence, it's hard to assign specific action or animals to a specific person. Also, some authorities we see do not take as much action as would be desirable in enforcing wildlife crime. So when it comes to reporting of suspicious activities, there are some reporting platforms. WWF initiated one a few years ago where wildlife crime can be reported. There's a project in Bavaria, Tatort Natur, where people are urged to report suspicious activities. Also, Committee Against Bird Slaughter, they have a reporting hotline, and obviously you can also call the police. So, conclusions. Illegal killing of protected animals is a serious crime, but it must be taken more seriously and prosecuted more consistently. As you saw, the collection and publication of data is not sufficient, and this must be improved. We see that training opportunities should be created, additional capacities and special units within the investigative authorities, and also raising public awareness to increase willingness to report these cases. My last slides, just want to point your attention to a new project. Oliver already mentioned it, that just started, in fact, a month ago. It's a live project, a wildlife crime, that focuses on better enforcement, better law enforcement of wildlife crime activities, not only on mammals, but also on birds, on raptors. It takes place in Germany and Austria. We are coordinating beneficiary, but I'm really happy that we actually have police also as partner of the project. In Austria, we have the Federal Ministry for Justice or for Interior as a partner. So the goal of the project is to improve the prevention of wildlife crime, better research, also better conflict management, really address also the underlying and deep-rooting conflicts, then improve the detection and forensic investigation of cases through capacity building, but also improving reporting platforms and databases, and then also offer trainings for prosecutors, for judges, also for rangers in the field, and also work on the legal framework, basically develop proposals for improvement of legal frameworks and engage with decision makers and political representatives on better enforcement, better legal framework for that. And I think with that, one last advice. WWF, together with the University of Bremen, we initiated a conference, an annual conference on conservation law and policy. And this year we'll have it already the third time. It was quite successful the first 2 years. We had lots of participants, and due to COVID, these first conferences were online, but this year we decided to have it hybrid. So if you want to join us in Bremen on December 7th, you're more than welcome, or join us online. There are lots of interesting talks. You can see the program on the website. And with that, thank you for your attention.
Perfect in information and perfect in time. Thanks a lot, Moritz. So we open the forum for the questions, and we have one question from an online participant.
Yeah, exactly. So how many of the 942 roadkill wolves have been tested for what chemicals? They may have been hit after having been poisoned. Do you have any information about that?
Maybe I can even ask Oliver on that. Do you know it? If you test the wolves also, if you do toxicological research on that?
Up to now, the wolves are not tested toxicological frequently. So only in suspicious cases, wolves are tested. But we might think about that within the Wildlife Crime Project.
Although I would assume that if a wolf is poisoned, it will probably die rather soon and not be suspect of car-to-car traffic accident. But that's my suspicion. Again, they are quite thoroughly examined, and that's how we know that when they are shot at least, right? Or if there are other diseases or anything.
Thanks a lot. We have several questions, what is not a surprise concerning the topic. So I guess we start here, please.
Hi, my name is Manon Kestro. I work for the Renewables Grid Initiative. Thank you for the great presentation. Besides the LIFE project that you have just started, congratulations on that, by the way, I was wondering if you have other transnational projects going on and collaboration, especially with France or Portugal or Spain, where the populations of wolves are increasing, and to tackle this data gap that you have regarding wildlife crimes. Thank you.
So there's one project we currently have that's funded by the Federal Ministry of Environment together with Czech Republic, and that's a project focusing on the links in the transboundary area. So the population you maybe saw on the map in Bavaria, it's the Bavarian, Bohemian, Austrian population. So it covers 3 countries, and we work together in that project to also work on better enforcement and prevention of wildlife crime. The University of Bremen, their legal faculty, they have already developed trainings for prosecutors and judges to make them more aware of the extent of wildlife crime in Germany. So maybe that's one example. And then, among the European WWF network, we are obviously in touch with our colleagues also on the issue. There has been a project that just finished. It's also a live project called Swipe, and that actually encompassed, I think, 10 European countries. Also Spain was partner, but then a lot of Eastern European countries. And the aim was to get a better understanding of the extent of wildlife crime. So they did a lot of interviews to better document cases. So that might be interesting to look in, if you're interested in that, in their documentation and their final conference, the documentation of that.
Thanks a lot. The next question was over there, please.
Only some words to the wolf discussion, and especially to the poaching. What are the reasons for poaching? I think the wolf is no endangered species. We have a wide territory area of the species from the Lüneburger Heide through Poland, Baltic republics, Belarus to our region in Far East. the reason for poaching is a missing of legal legislation in our country. The population density is the highest in the whole area of the wolf distribution. And we have to understand that that is a normal process of the area in Germany go on. That is clear. But we have the highest population in the whole territory. That are the reason for poaching. The territory area for one clan of wolves in Germany are 100 to 200 square kilometers. But the genetic distance of contact between wolf populations are more than 100 kilometers. That is either no problem of genetic problem when we have lower population density. And that is a problem. And you will see in future that some countries in Germany give legal shooting for wolves. And I'm not against wolves, please understand. But we have to, we will have a special border of population level, and that is a main problem in my understanding.
Thank you, Professor Stubber.
Contribution, I think it was rather a statement than a question.
In fact, I was expecting your statement, but yeah, I think we don't have time now to discuss on the wolf topic, but it is a crime to kill wolves, obviously, and that was the focus to give you an overview, on the illegal actions against protected species. So I guess, we probably don't have time to discuss on wolves, although I do understand some of your arguments. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. I guess the wolf discussion has to be shifted to the lunch break.
Hi, I'm Liam from the Renewables Grid Initiative. One of the most common arguments that I hear among opponents of reintroduction of wolf or lynx, especially in the UK, is the loss of livestock from farmers. So I'm wondering, is there any compensation mechanisms for lost livestock in Germany? And how is that managed? Who pays it? How much is it? Any details are welcome.
Okay, so we do talk about the wolf. That's fine. I'll try to be very short. So there is support for preventive measures. So in almost all of states in Germany, farmers get 100% reimbursement for fences, also for livestock guardian dogs. In some states, they even get a fee for the additional work they have with that. And then if you implement proper livestock protection measures, you also get up or 100% compensation in case a wolf will still kill your livestock. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge discussion, and obviously the return of wolf does mean change for farmers, for livestock owners, because it does change the whole, the way their working routines, and obviously it's also an emotional burden if your livestock are being killed by wolves. It's paid by the state. So there's even European money available for that, but right now in Germany, at least all the federal states, they use it from conservation grants mostly. So it's state money.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we nevertheless had a little wolf discussion. Any more concerning wildlife crime in general? Or should we shift to the next presentation? I see nothing. So the next presentation, thanks a lot, Moritz.